Yo, yo, yo. Welcome back into another edition of Jake's Takes. I am your host, Jake Massucci, and I am super excited for this episode. Today, I got on my guy, Neal Ruhl. Super excited for this. To briefly introduce him a little bit, he's got great background in sports. I mean, he's been the radio guy at Oakland for a long time now, and he's been there all 4 years since I've been there. So I've been blessed to develop a great relationship with him. We've been traveling together for the past 3 years, and got to go through March Madness together. Got to go through all of that stuff together. So we've developed a really good relationship. He does a lot of sports media throughout. He works with Woodward Sports. He does the Oakland radio. So, I mean, this is a super big time guest that I'm getting on for you guys. And I'm just super excited for this episode. We're going to go through the whole college football season, talk about Indiana, talk about Big Ten versus SEC. We get into all of it. So, super excited for this. And without further ado, I'm going to cue the music. All right, welcome back into the show, and I am super excited to be joined by my guy, Neal Ruhl. Super excited for this. We've been talking about this for a while, Neal, and
Yes.
going on all of our trips with Oakland basketball, and I'm super excited to have you here. So welcome to the show, Neal.
It's good to be here on Jake's Takes. I've been looking forward to this for a very, very long time. Jake, you know ball. So I'm excited to sit here and rap about it with you.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I've been talking college football now probably for 2 or 3 years. And the hardest people to find for guests is college football. So when we're on road trips and stuff and chopping it up, I'm looking for people. Like I'm like itching for people to talk it up with. And every trip we've been talking about it. So it's super cool and I'm super excited for this episode, man.
Yeah, I college football is probably my favorite. Like I like college football more than the NFL. I like that you can go find what you want. There's like the NFL, like everything's the same. They run the same offense, they run the same defense. There's like little differences and variations, but for the most part, everything's the same. College football, man, I'll watch the service academy games and the triple option. I'll watch Hawaii do the run and shoot. Like I just, you can choose whatever you want, man. And I do. I love college football. I love the characters. I love the coaches. I love all of it, man. College football is the best.
It is. It is. I love it. I love it. So let's get right into it. We're recapping the season a little bit. So Indiana, man, just like everybody expected, right? Like you open the book at the beginning of the year and you were like, oh, Indiana's winning it. No, that was crazy. Absolutely crazy. Unbelievable run. So talk to me about what you thought about it. I mean, undefeated season, just craziness.
No, it was, and it was fun, right? Like it was cool to see some new blood, I guess. America, we found out from the TV ratings of the games that America liked some new blood too. There were monstrous TV ratings, which is really odd, Jake, because I was told in this day and age of name, image, and likeness and paying the players and all that stuff, I was told nobody likes it anymore. But there over 30 million people were watching Indiana, Miami. So maybe somebody's lying about that. I think that maybe they're not quite being honest because somebody likes it. And I just again like it's all part of the entertainment aspect of it all. But and Kurt Netti's entertaining, man. Like he talks, he said stuff, they back it up. Like he's definitely very, very good for college football. And let me say this too about Kurt Cignetti. It's yet another example of there are good coaches everywhere. Just because they're not at one of the Power Four institutions doesn't mean that they're not a good football coach. And you see that. You see that with Cignetti. And, sometimes athletic directors, oftentimes, they get stuff wrong, namely the coaches that they hire. And Kurt Cignetti was out there for everyone. Indiana went with them and won a national title. So it goes to show you that coaching is pretty important.
Yeah. The thing about Cignetti too that I find so interesting, it was like kind of how he built his team, right? Um, you're looking at it and he was like, "Okay, I want experienced guys that have been in college football for a long time, have played in big games." And, they were kinda, like, overlooked as high school guys, but then, like, as they went into the portal, you're seeing them as, like, 4-star, 5 stars as the reevaluation process went within the portal. My question to you about like how Cignetti built the roster is, do you think you'll see a lot more coaches try to figure out, okay, like Cignetti did it this way? Do you think it would be like kind of like a copycat league like we talk about in the NBA where people will be like, oh, we want experienced guys instead of you seeing all the high school guys coming out
Yeah,
like
absolutely. I
normal?
mean, that's across the board. That's college basketball. That's college football. Coach Campy and I talked about this. It's a couple weeks ago, as a matter of fact. The coach at Oakland, and he when he kind of got into this day and age of college athletics, he said we have to get older, more experienced. You're already developed. You don't have to waste your time and resources developing them anymore. And that's really what's most impacted through this name, image, and likeness era right now of college athletes. The experienced players, they're the ones that are gonna be the commodities because they're already a finished product, and you don't have to put your time into developing them and overseeing them and nutrition for years and strength training for years and all that kinda stuff. They're finished products when they get there. And yeah, I mean, that's the way professional sports are. And, like, with all due respect, when you play for money, you're a professional. And, the student athlete stuff is over. Like, they're professional athletes. They get paid money to play. That's the very definition of professional. So, yeah, Signetti has kind of shined the light on it, or continues to shine the light on it, I guess. And I guess that's the question now, right? That's the question I was going to ask about Signetti in Indiana is, can you do it can you do it without your guys that were already developed and stuff like that? Can you go evaluate talent? See, that's the other thing that nobody talks about in this time and era. How good are you at a talent evaluation, from a talent
Mhm.
evaluation standpoint? And we're gonna see, right? Because his guys have kind of run through there, his guys from James Madison, and they won a national title. And as you know, Jake, from watching this, and we're gonna have this discussion, things move fast in college football. uh, you're done in 3 years, like, as we
Mhm.
will talk about later, like with the SEC. It doesn't matter what you did for 2 decades. It's over year by year. So, again, that he has done this. He has innovated it further, but it was already on that trek to begin with, and that's gonna be my question about him in Indiana is, okay, like, their fans, their donors, everything, they'll kick in the money. I mean, Mark Cuban has, infinity
Yep.
money. Like,
Yep.
it'll go on forever. But we see this all over the place. Like, BYU, is it BYU has the crumble cookie people, or is that
Yep.
Utah? Yeah,
Mhm. Yep.
like, everybody's got it now. So all of it's going to fall back on what kind of talent evaluator are you? So we will see about that with Signetti.
Yeah, no, for sure. I really do think it's interesting because it's like, okay, now we're talking about Indiana as possibly a powerhouse team, like going forward through. They could be the team of the 2020s, and with the transfer portal era, it's just really interesting to kind of be like, okay, this could be anyone, you know?
No, we saw it. We saw it with Texas Tech, where they just woke up one day and said, "Hey, we're going to be good at football," and they put
Hmm.
their millions out there, and look at that, they're in the playoff. Texas Tech. I mean, that's the thing. Indiana's getting all the shine, but Texas Tech is just, I think, an exact carbon copy of Indiana. They just didn't win the chip. Like,
Hmm.
they hadn't won the conference since the '50s or something crazy
Yeah.
like that too, and they just woke up one day and said, "We're gonna be good at football." And that's really all that it takes right now. So, I think that's also too a little bit why you're seeing coaches that are longstanding coaches like a Nick Saban, like Coach K in basketball. They're like, "Man, like, this is a lot. Like, I'm out. I made my money. Like, I'm done." Because it's probably going to be even more of a year round thing. Like, college coaches, to some degree, they would have, a little bit of their summers. I remember when Steve
Yeah.
Spurrier, when I was a kid, when Steve Spurrier was a coach at Florida, like, he was famous for that. That's why I didn't work in the NFL. He's like, I'm not going to sleep in the office and stuff like that. So, it's become more year round, more 24/7. So, but I like that teams were rewarded for investment.
Mhm. For sure, for sure. So moving on a little bit, Fernando Mendoza. Okay, he was kind of like a storyline throughout. Like Indiana's got this great O line, got the great defense, but Mendoza on top of it all is the Heisman quarterback, right? And we haven't seen a Heisman quarterback win at all since the Joe Burrow season, and that LSU team, who was the last undefeated team, also. So comparing Mendoza to past Heisman quarterbacks, like just some names I wrote down would be Burrow, Jaden Daniels, Bryce Young. Like on paper, I think, well, not on paper, but like with your eyes, like you're watching it and you're like, this doesn't really look like the talent level of a Joe Burrow or a Bryce Young or guys that were really dicing. But he still ended up with the most passing yards. You know, he ended up with all of the quarterback awards. So talk to me about what your thoughts are on Fernando Mendoza and his future within the NFL too.
We were talking about this a lot during the season on my talk show on Woodward Sports, where I think the quote unquote system days of system quarterbacks, where this kind of goes back to what we were just talking about getting finished products and you don't develop anymore and stuff like that. The flip side of all that is I think the quarterback spot will take a hit in college football. And like, look, was he magnificent? Yes. Was he the best player in college football? Also, yes. Does he line up with those names that you just mentioned, like Joe Burrow, stuff like that in college? No, I don't think so. And it's not to say that he's not great. He was the best. Let me say this again, because I know we have friends that will ISO comments and stuff like that. He was the
Mhm.
best player in college football. Period. Hard stop. Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback of Indiana, was the best player in college football. But look around the country now. Look at the quarterback spot. Look at you know look at the names that change places and all that stuff. Like I talk about Dante Moore because he's a local Detroit product where he's coming back to school, and why wouldn't he? He'll make more money this year than he would the first year of his rookie contract in the NFL. So with all that being said, Dante Moore is a guy where and he'll be next year's, right? He'll be hyped up next year and everything like that because that's the way that it works. But I think that the quarterback spot is the one that will suffer from this day and age of college football because it, we see it in the NFL. You're either a national championship, top of the level, best quarterback, or you're not. There's only two camps now, and it's a very small camp to be in. But I think Mendoza was great. He was great. But with all that being said, he's gone now, and now they'll go in the portal and they'll get their guy, and Dante Moore's coming back, so he's going to be hyped up, and Arch Manning, and Bryce Underwood and his 9 passing touchdowns last year. He'll be anointed the next for no particular reason other than hey, it'll make you watch Big Noon Kickoff on Fox.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is really interesting because like you're seeing it, and especially I think it's Indiana's style of play, like I was hearing a lot of podcasts and they were talking about how Mendoza wasn't going to Manning Passing Academy, wasn't going to any of these passing camps that you see most of these prospects go to. And you're like, huh, why is he doing that? And it was because of Signetti. He pulled him out of these camps because he's like, okay, you got to understand how we want to play our system. And Fernando Mendoza was the number one RPO player in college football. The number two RPO player in college football was Josh Hoover, who is the new quarterback for Indiana this year. So I thought it was really interesting how Signetti did that. And that kind of got me thinking when you're watching Mendoza, it's like, okay, I want Mendoza to not just make these RPO reads. Like, let's see if he can actually go make a play. And then you saw him against like guys like Ruben Bain and guys like Akeem Mesidor, and he looked rattled. Like there were plays where it was really a struggle. And it was the first time all year because that Indiana O line was, I think, clearly the best O line in college football. It was an awesome O line full of big time seniors. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that translates. But you also saw the great moments, where he did manage the pocket well. He did make the run at the end of the game to score the touchdown. So there's a lot of things that intrigue me about Mendoza. There's pluses and minuses, but I'm really excited to see where he is as an NFL prospect. What are your thoughts on him moving to the NFL?
Well, I think there's a lot of validity in what you talked about with Miami and their defensive front. That
Yeah.
was high level, and look, you and I talked about this as the playoff was playing out, like, in our travels with college basketball.
Mhm.
Miami had high level, elite NFL pros in those spots, and
Mhm.
watch if you don't believe me, watch the draft, and
Yeah.
you'll see that play out in the
You'll
draft.
see both of them go top 10.
No, absolutely, you will, and, like, here's the thing, through all the hype that the quarterback spot gets, you know what else has changed college football, and by that same measure has changed NFL football? Defensive fronts and quarterback pressure. I think, like, edges and pass rushers and stuff like that, they're the new they're almost more like a more substantive wide receiver in
Mhm.
that they don't need somebody else. They don't need a line. They don't need a quarterback to deliver. They can just go make plays. They're what wide receivers would be if the quarterback didn't have to get them the ball. And that was my point about Miami and why I thought Miami was for real was that defensive front, that's grown man stuff. And you saw it. And here's where Mendoza went up a couple notches in my book in the national title game because he
Mhm.
paid the price physically. He got pounded on in that football game and he got up
Mhm.
every single time. And the run for the touchdown, he took a beating all game long. And Miami, like, and that was kind of my whole point about it. Like the Indiana thing, and I got labeled a hater by, a lot of people. And I was like, guys, Miami's on the other side of that field, bro. Like, and they had the football with a chance to win it. Like you could say they didn't just demolish them and do what they did to Oregon and stuff like that. Because Oregon wasn't in Miami's class from a physicality, physical front. And that's why I think, Miami will probably be around to stay for a little bit because you talk about Signetti's formula and he goes and gets, Josh Hoover, he's from TCU, right? Like
Yep.
the best RPO. All these great coaches, this is what hasn't changed about today's day and age of college athletics. Signetti has his formula. Formula works. Formula works even better with higher level of talent. You could take the uniforms off and the colors off when they play, and you can say that's a Kurt Signetti team. I think Miami will be the same way going forward. Like they're going to go get the best quarterback that they can find, and they're going to make a living off their guys in the trenches, and it's not sexy. And when you play like that, it's almost like Houston in college basketball. They're elite at what they do. They have elite talent. But when you fly that close to the sun all the time, you're going to get burned a few times. Like that's the way it
Mhm.
works. And Miami didn't win the ACC, but there they were in the national title game. And I think that what will remain the same about college sports and college football going forward, the formula is a formula. The coaches run it. They just go get the closest to what they just had in that system, in that spot. And then the revolutions, they keep the train rolling the whole time. I think that's what you'll see with Signetti, and you'll see that with college sports till the end of time.
For sure. For sure. All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break and then we'll be back at you guys with conferences and a little bit of playoff format stuff. We'll be right back. All right. Let's get right into it. Conferences. Okay. So SEC versus Big Ten has been a big discussion, especially within our travels. Okay. Like we've talked about it nonstop. I mean, Cam, if you're listening to the show, you were all over it with us when
Yeah,
we were
you
talking
slappy.
about it. So let's talk about it on the show. So SEC versus Big Ten. I want to get your thoughts on it, and we'll just go back and forth. So, what are your thoughts?
All right, it's funny to me, and you probably know where I'm going to go with this.
Hmm.
It's funny to me that a 3-year run undoes decades, not a couple years, literally since high definition TV was created, has undone a 2+ decade run of dominance by the SEC and not by the usual suspects. And by the way, I would like to congratulate Ohio State and Michigan fans on their Indiana national championship. The the celebration and the cope by Michigan fans, Ohio State fans, like why does that bring you joy? Do you think it brings an Alabama fan joy to see Auburn win a national title? Do you think they like that? I never understood that about Big Ten fans. Like they're the only ones I see doing it. But whatever. The point of the story is this: you don't undo 2+ decades of pure dominance by multiple schools like the SEC has done and save the, oh, well, they were paying players. Ohio State has been doing anything that you accused the SEC of doing forever since the beginning of time. And oh, yeah, even Michigan. Go look it up if you want to. There are questions about them as well. There was only one coach in college football coaching on a show cause. Like if you want to
Mhm.
get in the weeds about, and I'm just keeping it 100 with everybody. I'm not telling you what I think. I'm telling you what we know. Those are
Mhm.
researchable facts, Jake. You can go look it up on your own time if you want. It's funny to me that 2 decades gets undone by a little 3-year run there. And if you look at it too, the totality, I'll use Indiana, and they won. And fair play to Indiana, they won. They got in the playoff
Mhm.
and they won. They got to play, a Big Ten team and win. But you can see stretches of a 6-week stretch, and look who they play. Pull up an SEC schedule, any SEC schedule, and put it side by side and tell me that's the same. Jake, come on, bro. Like I know you lean Big Ten, I know you do, but am I
Yeah.
am I crazy here when I say that? Be real.
No, you're not crazy. You're not crazy at all. I mean,
Okay.
especially with I have a conference summary of this year's win-loss record, and the SEC still has the best win-loss record. So I'm one of those guys where it's like, I completely respect your opinion where you're talking about, okay, what the SEC has done in the past couple years, clearly they're number one, right? And then the Big Ten's right there. And the Big Ten's got the contenders now, right? You got Indiana, Ohio State. They're in their own class. They're up there. Oregon's right there, really close, right?
Oh, wait a minute. You haven't
My
got to, I was told Michigan's here to
Michigan's
stay.
not there. Michigan's not there. Okay.
Wait.
Michigan sometimes will have seasons where they really go up in the air and are one of those teams, right? But they haven't consistently done it, right? And I'm a Michigan fan. You know that about me. Like, I
That's
think
odd.
Michigan will have, yeah, it's very odd. But Michigan fans have always thought that. Like, we've had that conversation where sometimes they're up, sometimes they're down. Oregon has consistently been up. They haven't gotten the job done, but they're consistently up. Indiana is now consistently up. Again, our question earlier in the podcast was, can they keep it up? Will Josh Hoover actually work? I mean, I have questions about Hoover coming in. We'll see. They have to build that O line up again. They had that all world center last year from Notre Dame. He's the leader of the offense. Like, see what happened to the Eagles O line when they lost their center. That's a big time loss. So I'm interested to see if Indiana can keep it up. Ohio State has kept it up. Oregon has kept it up. Right now, if you're looking at the SEC, though, it's on and off. Like LSU isn't a contender. They just fell off a cliff. And they have some years where they get it done. LSU and Michigan are a perfect example of similar teams. Some years they get it done, some years they don't. They fall apart, you know? And then if you're looking at the guys that are consistently at the top, it's still Alabama. They missed the playoff 1 year. They're consistently up there. Oklahoma has gone up and down, up and down. Texas A&M has gone up and down, up and down. Ole Miss, can you keep it up without Lane? I don't know. You won a playoff game where you matched up really good against Georgia. Let's see you do it for a full year. I don't know. You know, the SEC is similar where they got teams going up and down like Michigan, but the thing is that like they have so many teams doing it that makes them right now a better conference. Big Ten, you actually have more consistent contenders now. And that's, I think, the argument that we're kind of switching into where it's like, okay, Big Ten might have like more contenders. The SEC is still the deeper conference, but we got to admire the Big Ten for having these contenders now.
Yeah, but I mean, do they get fluffed up though? Because like look at the back: Purdue, Michigan State, Maryland,
Yep.
Wisconsin,
Yep.
Rutgers, UCLA,
Mm-hmm.
Northwestern, Nebraska.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
a Washington, Minnesota. That's a lot of schools I just listed off right
Well,
there, man.
Washington just made the championship 2 years ago, right?
Yeah,
Like
and they
that's
won.
another example of sometimes being contenders, sometimes not. You know
Yeah,
what I
and then
mean?
they've won one road game since they've got in the Big Ten or some
Yes.
crazy number,
Yep.
like one road game. Like, come on,
Yeah.
man. That's insane. And it's
Mhm.
just like when you boil it all down, man, and Vanderbilt's popped up and stuff like that. I still say that pound for pound, the top of the SEC, and when you go through it all, like who's better? And I know everyone's going to run to bowl games like bowl games matter. Both ways, they don't matter. When your
Yeah. No,
team
I
wins, they don't
agree.
matter. Yeah, when your team wins, they
I
don't
agree.
matter. And when your
Yeah.
team loses, they don't matter. They
Because
don't.
a lot of people are already, especially with now, like a lot of people are already looking at the portal and stuff. I mean, a lot of people run to bowl games because it proves their point. Like Big Ten was 11-5 this year. The SEC was 4-10, but I don't think that proves the point at all. But go ahead,
Well,
keep going.
yeah. Well, did the SEC get to play Central Michigan in a bowl game? Like again, that's
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like SEC doesn't have those bowl alliances, dude, where they're playing Central Michigan, in the it's just that it's all selective, right? In bowl games, literally, and I'm always consistent about this, man. They do not matter. They don't. You don't know who's there, who's not there. A guy says he's going to be there. Like, and in a weird way, I kind of like that about the bowl season too, where you have players saying, "Hey, man, come play in the game. I'm going to play. Let's go out and do it the right way. Let's go out the right way." Then they play a play, and then they take their uniform off and they stand on the sideline. Like it's electric,
Yeah.
man. It's
Mhm.
awesome. You can't prop that up and use that as your data point. All I know is like Michigan's supposed to be it, right? Like they're there.
Yeah.
Michigan's supposed to be there. What happened when they played Oklahoma in a game that mattered? They got
Yep.
owned,
Mhm.
owned.
Owned. Yep.
And Ohio State beat Texas, which is fair play. I think that we saw Texas as the year went on. They play better football at the end. I think that's definitely fair to say. And they're going to be hyped up, and we're the Arch Manning for Heisman round
Yep.
2 is gonna
It'll be
is gonna
back.
happen.
It'll be back.
100% it'll be back.
Mhm.
It'll be, you know, Bryce and Arch Manning and Dante Moore and all that stuff. Like all of it will be back because that's the way that it works. But it's just, I don't think that 2+ decades of dominance goes away by a 36-month stretch. I don't think that way, especially to the depth. I mean, you talked about Florida and LSU and Bama and Auburn. I think I'm even missing one that
These are all teams that have won a national championship in the
correct.
past. And in
Correct.
order for the Big Ten, this is where I agree with you. In order for the Big Ten to keep up and get there completely, we got to see other teams go win it all. If Oregon wins it all, huge. Like if Washington comes out of nowhere and wins it all, that's big time too. UCLA could figure out the money. USC could figure out the money. If those teams can get back to, I mean, USC is a team that was legit in the Pac 12 in the past. If they could get back to that USC team of old, which they have the money to do it, like to figure that out, if they really put the time and effort into it, then that helps the Big Ten's case. But when you're going up against teams like Auburn that have won it all in the past, Oklahoma that have won it all in the past, Texas won it all in the past, there's so many teams that have done it in the SEC. I think that's where I'm like, okay, the SEC is a better conference. All I'm saying is the Big Ten is starting to figure out and load up with contenders and is starting to come in for it.
And like to back up your point, just say like the 10th LSU was 10th in the SEC last year. You know who was 10th in the Big Ten? Northwestern.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Like, come on, bro.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
one of those things is not like the other, and that's
Yeah.
and that's my point. That's all.
Yeah. No, that's completely fair. Completely fair. So let's move into playoff format a little bit. I wanted to talk about this because it's definitely interesting, especially with James Madison and Tulane joining the party this year. And I listened to your podcast with Gideon, who does an unbelievable job with his podcast. And I know, like, you talked about how the system rolls. Like, it's fair that they got it. They're just teams doing what they want, like, and winning games. They did their job. It's not their fault that Duke won the ACC, and that's how the conference thing works. So, talk to me about if you were granted college football commissioner. Okay. Talk to me about what you'd want your ideal playoff scenario to look like and how you would do that.
I would probably just have it an even set amount. I mean, like, look, I go back and forth between 8 and 16 because I think
Mhm.
8 like, look, I uniquely understand probably more than most the financial implications of it. So if I were running it so I would have to ask you then, Jake, okay, your question, what is my role in running this? Am I a coach? Am I the president of the NCAA? Am I, the president of a conference? Am I a board member on a TV network? What is my role? And I'll tell you the answer.
So you're completely unbiased, okay? You've watched the whole thing. You're you, but they just granted you commissioner, okay? Completely unbiased. You have no role within the NCAA, but your job is to pick the 12 teams or to pick whatever amount of number of teams and figure out a correct playoff format to make college football the most successful it can be.
Yeah, the issue with that, Jake, is, that's idealistic, but it's not realistic,
No,
because yeah.
it's not realistic, but the thing is like
Well,
there's
it's like,
never
Jake,
going to be
it
an
depends,
answer.
man. Like, it
Yeah.
depends on what your role is because, like,
Okay.
okay, like, here, I'll give you a real world okay, I'll give you the real world approach here.
Okay.
What I would do is I would put it at 16 teams. Everybody would play every week, and I would just add more games to the schedule. Like I know they say, well, now you're playing 4 extra games. So what? We've jumped the shark a long time ago, and
Mhm.
everyone's going to make more money. There's another round of college football playoff money that gets put in there. Um, I would do the first round at at the campus sites and do it that way. Kind of a nice little reward.
Would
Um,
you do second round there too or no?
no, because here's why. And again, I'm coming at you with realistic. So I'm the
Yep.
president of the NCAA, right? I got a lot of buddies that run these bulls. The chairman of the guy that runs the Sugar Bowl, as a matter of fact. I know 20 years ago, that was a $700,000 a year job to run
Yeah.
the Sugar Bowl. You know, that's at the
Mhm.
same stadium and the same hotels and the same events, and everything's been like that forever. I can imagine that's probably pushing a seven-figure job now to
Yeah.
do that job. Theoretically, you work like 2 weeks a year and that's it. And you just go around the country and look at other bowls knowing that you're just gonna run it the same way that you ran it. So, like,
Mhm.
that's always gonna happen. I never understood the people that got mad about that. That's never going away. Never.
Mhm.
Your friends have these jobs. You're not taking those jobs away. So again,
Yeah.
let's get in the real world here and figure this out. I would do the first round at the campus sites and everybody could, get all hype about it and all that kind of stuff. But then I would just incorporate the bowl games and moving on. For whatever reason, the Rose Bowl has this mystical power over college football where they get to dictate what they do, and they want the third quarter to start at precisely the moment that the sun sets and all that, and they get away with it, and they
Yep.
do it all the time. Like that's crazy to me. But whatever, you have to account for these things. But I guess
Mhm.
I'm kind of being a jerk, I guess, answering your question. But the moral of the story is, I would probably put it at 16 teams. It's just the issue is, and you're seeing this play out in real time now. Everyone's got an agenda. Like the Big Ten wants it to go to 24. They'll say, all right, we'll agree to 16 if you get it to 24 in 2 years. And the
Yeah.
reason is, the reason why, because it goes back to what we just talked about with the Big Ten. LSU can recover and get in the playoff and probably will with Lane Kiffin. Just
Yep.
like that. They're going to be back in there, just like that. Is there a war? I always hear about Illinois every year. Like I always hear, oh, they're the number 8 team in the country. And you ever notice that somebody in the Big Ten has a top 10 win on their resume every year, and it's always Illinois at the end of September or the beginning of October. You ever notice that? You ever notice that?
Yeah. It's
Like it always
Illinois or
happens.
Iowa. It's
Yeah,
Illinois or
it's
Iowa.
it's the only way the Big Ten's gonna get Minnesota, Illinois, and Iowa in the playoff. It's the only way they can because those
Mhm.
teams have proven throughout time, like, they're less than. And that goes into the point of the depth of the conference. And that's why the SEC, like, they'll agree to 16 and roll out that way because they're always gonna be in the mix all the time. And
Yeah.
so it goes back to the reason it's so complicated is because there's so many agendas that are attached to it. The Big
Yeah.
10, they have the biggest TV deals, right? So that they're very protective of that. they want the most teams in there so they can get the most revenue. And I don't hate them for that. Like I give the Big Ten credit because they they have done a masterful marketing job that have made people think that they were on par with the SEC even when they weren't,
Mhm.
so props to them. So I guess I think 16 is the right number. You start getting up into 32. Now
Yeah.
25% of the teams are in it. And like I don't know, man. That's not for me. And like look, March Madness works because there's 340 or 350 or 330 Division One teams. So in the end, it works that way. You can play more games in all of it. I think 16 is just about the right number. And as far as a formula goes, the Big Ten and the SEC, they hold all the power and they'll want a quota of their teams that have to be in there. It's just the whole thing seems kind of silly to me. You never hear about this with the basketball tournament because they play it out, right? So I don't know, man. I guess that's a long way of saying, Jake, being honest with you, I don't know. There's so many agendas that have to be served that you almost want to throw your hands in the air. But I do know this. I can complain about it. See, I'll be honest about it. I'll sit here and complain about it on Jake's Takes. But in August, I'll be out on the deck and I'll be
Yep.
watching Hawaii in week
We'll be
0. You
watching.
know I will. You know
Yep.
I will. Shout out Rainbow
Mhm.
Warriors.
For sure, for sure. So last thing to close up a little bit, okay? Um, the last 3 champions have been in the Big Ten, okay? Um, just this is so early, so it really doesn't matter. But do you think the SEC is gonna be back on top next year?
Yeah, I mean, that's you gotta see, I'm big on the roadmap too, like, when the
Yeah.
playoff comes out, I'm big on that, so I know it's way too early and everything like that. I do think that Texas improved a lot
Yeah.
as the season went on. I mean,
We
honest to
talked
God.
we talked about that. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I
like
mean, Texas, like, they brought in Cam Coleman, they brought in 2 running backs that are really gonna help them. That I really wanted them to get that Jordan Seaton, the guard from, Colorado, but he went to LSU, which is a big time get for them. But, yeah, I mean, I think the SEC improved a lot, so I'm really excited to see where it all ends up. Um, we were talking about this is a big year for Arch, to figure it out. So, I'm looking forward to that, but
yeah, and I do think for the SEC, it'll be interesting to see, the Lane Kiffin dynamic. Can he finally get over the hump? And, he through the years I've really warmed to Lane Kiffin because he's a great character for college football, an elite character, and it goes back to, like, the wrestling angle of it that I've talked about before, where I wanna see if he can finish it off because I said early on in his career, I've never seen anybody in the history of the world that falls up the way that Lane Kiffin does. Meaning,
yeah.
like, he fails in college to get an NFL job that he fails at to get a college job and then gets fired on the tarmac, at the airport and all that kind of like you can't make Lane Kiffin's story up. I love it. And then he goes to
Mhm.
Florida Atlantic, and
Yep.
he's there on South Beach and everything, and he's all tanned up and he gets them pumping and they're putting dudes in the NFL and they're winning games. And it's just I do love the character of it, but I do think that like look, Ohio State's an interesting dynamic to me because doesn't it feel like they fail most of the time, but when they
Yep.
succeed, they win it all? Like, it's
They
really
win it
wild.
all. Yeah.
Yeah, like,
It
it's
is
it's
wild.
really, really wild.
I mean, today they hired Arthur Smith as their offensive coordinator. Like, think about this. Ryan Day is the head coach. Their 2 coordinators were former NFL head coaches. Like,
Yeah,
that's
washout.
crazy.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
no,
washouts. Yeah.
yeah, but that's the way that it works, man. Like, it's almost like you go to college. It's like you go to rehab. You go to, like, coaching rehab. You go down you go down to
Yeah.
college and be a coordinator. You stay there for 1 year, and the next thing you know, you're
Mhm.
you're popped back up, in the NFL. And why wouldn't you? If you were a coordinator, Ohio State's gonna make the playoff. You're gonna have elite quarterback playing elite talent, elite wide receivers, all of it. So you're gonna look good. You're gonna play Toledo and Ohio, and, you're going to play Minnesota and Iowa, and you're going to have 8 games a year where you pump 40 plus points on the board. Why would you not go there?
Yeah.
So it is. But to land the plane, I guess I really do think that it's just so Miami. I don't believe in Mario Cristobal. We have too much data
Mhm.
that suggests that in game, in coaching situations, in games, he tends to be less than. I feel the same way about Sarkisian, right? Like
Okay. Yep.
there's so much data that suggests that in the big moment, you see what the results are. So it's just when you boil it all down, it is a big year for Texas. I like way too early. The feels. If I were gonna have to like quote unquote bet on somebody, I probably would bet on Texas. I would.
I like it. I like it. All right. Well, that's going to wrap up the show for today. Neil, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a lot of fun, man.
Oh, absolutely. It was never not going to be fun, man. I love being here on Jake's Takes, man. Anytime you want to rap about sports, anytime you want to do it, Jake, let's do it, man. Because as I said, you know ball, like you know the ins and outs of college football far better than I do. Like from player personnel and all that kind of stuff, far better than I do. I understand the real world of college football. Like that's kind of my angle. I understand the TV money and the old boys network and all that stuff. So we make a pretty good team, Jake. It's good to be on your show.
For sure. For sure. All right. Well, that's going to wrap up the show for today. Thank you guys so much for listening, watching, wherever you're at. Please like and subscribe on YouTube and hit that follow button on Spotify. I'll be back at you guys soon. Peace.